How's it, Mensa? Yussus. So can you bloody believe it? It's episode 4-ish. It still feels so surreal, as I've been trying to get these podcasts uploaded for the past 4 years. Yet something always came up to totally throw me off track, leaving me stumped and restricted. Maar the tides have turned, and we are on a roll. The past 3 episodes have been full of the echte South African schmaak, showing a true reflection of the people of our Rainbow Nation. And whether you are South African or not, when you listen to these podcasts, you can literally feel the gees of Mensa of South Africa. The one thing I've realized so far is that no matter what South African people face in their lives, they always carry a sense of humor and a feeling of Ubuntu in their hearts. In today's episode, you will hear about the stories of 2 South African women who grew up in Johannesburg, or Jozi as we call it. They were literally on each other's doorsteps as neighbors, but only became friends in their late 20s. They were born in the late 70s and lived most of their lives in South Africa. They took different paths in their fields of studies after school, diving into marketing, advertising, and psychology. Yet they found themselves on the same path in 2006 on a yoga mat. Both are kind-hearted and free-spirited empaths, dedicating their lives to helping and serving their communities by offering healing modalities. They have both left South Africa to reconnect with their heritage in Spain and the Netherlands, and they've been friends now for 18 years. Through thick and thin, sick and sin, they are dynamic women with very different and unique gifts, but their hearts beat as one. They are kooky and crazy when they get together, and they really have a special bond. They share the love of a famous South African song by Sho Majozi called Cena, which has become their greeting war cry. So I'm excited for you all to listen to this podcast. So let's get into it, and let me welcome the Chi-Chis, Vanessa the Goddessa and Janini the Queenie. Chi. Hi, Bo. Hello, Chi-Chi.
Hello, my Chi-Chi. How are you?
Lekker. Nice, good. Lekker to hear you. Lekker to finally be doing this.
Lekker soos 'n cracker, my skat.
That's it. Lekker soos 'n cracker. Saying that, that's one of the very, very, very top words I use. It's like quite lazy in a way, but I just describe everything really as lekker. How are you doing today? Lekker. How's the weather? Lekker. What you doing? Lekker. I'm going
lekker.
So I think
lekker, but no.
I think it's been such a long-awaited time. I think I've got a couple of recordings on my backups here on my podcast equipment of us doing podcasts, chatting about things, trying to, if you remember back in 2021, I was setting up the video and I was trying to get that all done, and you spent hours with me. But I must say, after seeing how you moved out of the country before I did and moved on to Spain, we'll discuss more in depth now where you are exactly. But it's kind of said to me in this way that today is the time, because it's almost like it's matured, I think, your story from where we were going, where we were at to where we're at now.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Because I think
I've had time to settle.
Yeah.
You know, I've had time to settle, and I've had time to reflect on, what life was like in SA, and then what life is like here, and realizing that, every place has its good points, every place has its challenges, and we go through phases in life, and change is a part of life, and so I think you're right. I think this is a good moment to to record this conversation for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm very happy to have you on, because the story you've got and where you come from, where you were born, where you grew up, where you are now, where you've traveled and studied, it's all very colorful and very interesting because it gives a different perspective. I think let's get into that then. Where you were born in Venezuela.
Yeah, but I need to preface that just briefly so that, like, if, when listeners listen to this, they'll understand that, I kind of got some gypsy roots, not literal gypsy roots, not literal gypsy blood, but like parents who traveled a lot. So, my father is Spanish, and he comes from a region in Spain called Galicia. And Galicia was traditionally one of the poorest provinces, but it was close to the ocean. So the Gallegos would have quite a reputation for being great travelers to go and seek their fortune and, try their hands in a life somewhere else, essentially becoming an immigrant.
Nice.
And so his family, when he was 7 years old, went to Cuba. There was a history there of his grandfather, I think, having gone there before. And so he grew up in Cuba, which is where he met my mom. And then they left Cuba in 1964, kind of before, the regime became really entrenched, and they went to Spain.
Wow.
And that's where both they lived there for, a number of years. I think they got there in 1964. And both my brothers were born there. Miguel was born in 1966. Alex was born in 1972. And my father was an engineer. And at the time, an opportunity came up to go to South Africa. And so my parents packed up their lives and they boldly went down to the bottom of Africa and, established a life there.
Yeah.
And then it was just real, like coincidence in the sense that my father had a year-long job in Venezuela. And obviously the family went with him for that year, and I happened to be born there. So it's like, it all sounds very exotic, but it was kind of just like, it was my father's work essentially, which is what led to that happening. And I came back to South Africa when I was 5 months old. So I was like a baby. And they had been living in Johannesburg, and I grew up in Johannesburg. Johannesburg was essentially the only home I ever knew. And obviously I was very, very attached to the only home I ever knew.
Yeah.
But my story was always a little, because I was always kind of like an immigrant, so I, had a very different name. I had a bit of a different look, and I always found it a little easier to hang out with the other European kiddies, so like the Portuguese and the Italians.
Yeah, I was just going to say that,
and then I
because,
went to
Sahiti, so sorry to interrupt you there. I was just going to say there was so much Mediterranean influence as well that I find myself as well going into that space, because you kind of weren't the proper Afrikaans South African, These other roots.
Yeah, no, I knew, I definitely sensed that I wasn't like your typical white South African,
Yeah.
But I don't think it really kept me from, forging a strong bond and identity. But it did mean that a lot of my story was also unknown to me, and a lot of sense of having like roots and lineage was something that I didn't really explore until quite a bit later in life,
Yeah, true. Okay.
Yeah. So I was a Joburg girl, grew up in Joburg. I remember having a very pleasant childhood. And then obviously progress happened, and, like the city was growing and it continues to grow.
What part of Joburg were you from? Tell everybody.
So I grew up I grew up in Bedford View. If anyone knows the Italian club, I lived in a road called Winter Avenue. It was literally the first road to the left just before the entrance to the Italian club. So when it came to those little Friday night jolls, I could walk there and walk back.
A fish, eh? And I didn't know you then, hey, but I lived around the corner. I lived up in Primrose Hill, Witchwood, and I used to always tell people when they asked me, where do you live? Oh, I live in Bedford View, because I was pretty much on the border, you know. And Italian club was my stomping ground. So I only met you in 2006. So we were around about, what, 95, 94, 95, 96 going to Italian club? Or maybe even earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I was 14, 13, 14, 15. Yeah.
I remember at 13 asking my dad to go to Italian club, and he was like, no, you're not going. And I was so upset. I was 13 and wanted to run down the hallway and jump in.
You just wanted to party.
I did.
You just wanted to party. Well, you made up for it later, didn't you?
Well, I'm telling you now, he tamed the horse for as long as he could, and then it went wild, and then it came back to being tamed again. Well, I don't know if I'm actually tamed. I don't know if I can say that. It's just I know how to work the wild and the tame. Well, I'm learning.
Yeah, you kind of you know how to play. You play hard and work hard and play hard.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's go back to the childhood. So yeah, I grew up also in Johannesburg. I was at the Assumption Convent, which was up the drag from Saheti, taught by nuns. Very sheltered, much just girls only. I think Saheti's co-ed, right?
Yeah, Saheti's co-ed, correct.
Yeah, so I had so many Portuguese friends. I literally was in a community of Portuguese people around me. They were my Chinas. I spent so many times at their houses having espetada and bacalhau and all the lekkers and just being part of their culture, because my roots are basically born in Johannesburg, but my dad and mother were both born in South Africa. However, their parents and parents have roots from my dad's side, Lebanon, and my mom's side, the Netherlands, hence where I am at the moment today. So for me, it was also a case of being I was always, I would say, labeled by some of the people that were like Portuguese and had Portuguese parents. They would kind of look at me and be like, yeah, you are one of us in the Mediterranean vibe, but you're kind of a pavement special, you know, as they call it when there's like a couple of different breeds of dogs put together. And I used to always say to them, that's not nice to say. Like, variety is my spice of life. You know me. 5 varieties. Yeah. Tappers, you know. So, growing up around the corner.
Menu is all you.
Yeah. But growing up in those days was really cool. And as we heard from the previous podcast with Katie, it was like she was also around us in that drag, you know, in Bedford View. You said to me earlier that she was a year behind you. Yeah.
Kate was a year younger than me. And although she supposedly hung out with the kids in my year, I never noticed. I never noticed her.
But
I mean, that's not to say that I was like a super popular.
Are we talking about primary school? Are we talking about preschool?
Yeah, Bedford View Primary.
Okay.
Bedford View Primary School, yeah. And I think I also went to Bedford View Nursery School, and I think she also went to Bedford View Nursery School, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she was saying that because she was talking about when she dived into or somersaulted into that tire that was normally filled with sand, and there was nothing, and she was talking about Bedford View Primary. Yeah, so she was Bedford View Primary and Bedford View, Nursery. But that was right next to me. That was near Bishop Baven. Then you came up the drag. You were at Assumption Convent. So we were literally around the corner from each other and didn't know each other until 2006. Isn't that crazy?
I know, right? No, it is crazy.
Yeah.
And look what brought us together. The yoga.
That was definitely it. And life experiences or life-changing experiences, let's put it that way. Totally, like in the life-changing experience that I had with the fire in my factory in 2006, I was called to go back to yoga. And you were the one that I Googled.
Yeah.
I went onto Google and I put yoga in Bedford View and came Vanessa, the undresser, caressa, Goddessa.
Thank you, Google. Thank you for Googling me, my friend.
I know, it was so wonderful, and I spent a lot of time just using the weekly classes you offered. So let's go back into that. So you did schooling in Bedford, in nursery and primary in Bedford View, and then you moved to Saheti for your high school days. And then when you left school?
Yeah, when I left school, I went and did 2 years of university in Miami. Nice. That was my North American adventure. I think I kind of had ideas that I wanted to move to the States, but then when I got there, I was like, no, I miss home.
Yeah.
And so I went back to South Africa, and I completed my degree at what was then RAU, the Rand Afrikaans Universiteit, but is now the University of Johannesburg.
UJ.
Yeah, got a degree in psychology, just a BA.
Nice, well done.
I kind of half-heartedly tried to do some honors via UNISA, but that just kind of fell by the wayside because in the meantime, when I was 21, I discovered yoga. That was in 2000. And then by 2002, I was teaching, and I just kind of threw myself into that whole hog. You know, I was like, I want to be a yoga teacher. So that's what I did.
Nice.
And then the year that we met, or maybe the year before, I had actually gone and done a massage course because I felt that massage would be a nice sort of like adjunct to doing yoga. And that's kind of the direction that my working life took me in. I had a studio in Johannesburg, in Edenvale, in the Sunrise Center for 8 years.
Yes, I remember
Total
that.
yoga.
I remember that. But now I just want to I want to come back to, I want to ask you a few questions before we motor on to where you are at the moment. But that journey that you went on, there was obviously, because so you were at RAU, which is now UJ. You studied psychology, but that was after you had gone to Miami. And in that time, so from 2000 to 2006, you were studying in Melville area. I was studying in, I did a 1-year course, by the way, on advertising. That was all I'd pretty much done because I was like, I cannot decide what I want to do, but advertising really gripped me. I did a 1-year course, and then when I was in Burnham, in Santon, in Caller Drive, it was such a jewel. Actually can't remember much of that year because it was like hardly ever in lectures. However, I'd come home and study my heart out and then would go back and do the work. And my friend never did that, but also missed class with me, and she failed and I passed. And she was like, what did you do? And I was like, you should have gone home and studied, man. It's fine to play in the day. We've got to go do the work at night. So that was out of it. And then I couldn't find a job in the advertising world. So I decided that I'm going to go into a reception position because I needed to pay my city golf off. I had a city golf, a red one, that I wanted to try and soup up to make it look like a VR6. Never happened. Yeah. But then I took this reception position and I kind of still had yoga coming into my life. The esoteric world was always creeping up. And basically I took on a few jobs. I moved from reception to sales. I didn't like that. I moved out of that. I went into print advertising for magazines. I moved out of that. I went into logistics, into the film recruitment agencies, and then I started White Trash. And then I basically ran White Trash in the print studio. And then I had that fire in my factory, and then I met you because I went back to yoga. It really devastated me. It was like this huge, big work for 6 years, and then it just all burned down. But it was a good transition. So why did you get into yoga?
Just want to, well, first, before you ask me that, I want to ask you, how did you know to make the push from working for other people to creating your own brand? Like, what was was there some, like a specific mechanism or an aspiration or something that pushed you? Because, I mean, this is a huge part of your identity, Janine. I mean, you are an entrepreneur. And I think you probably figured out pretty early on that, working for other people is not for you, and you need to do something dynamic, something that you can steer and you can direct and you can put your creativity into and you can put your passion into, and not have not have anyone telling you, no, it needs to be this way, or limiting you or controlling you, So I'm curious, like, to hear you express, what was that thing that made you go, no, this is not for me, but this entrepreneurship deal, this is where I'm going.
So listen, thank you for asking this, because it is important. And just going back to what we were talking about earlier, I've got that wild side in me and I've got the tame side. And I kind of found myself always out the box. I had a nose ring. I got myself dreadlocks. I had tattoos. It was all very taboo in those days, and it was all very frowned upon. And I tried to push myself into baskets because I needed a job. I needed to pay my city golf off. I needed this transport to get around Joburg, man. How am I going to get around? How am I going to get to the clubs? I was always about the party and being out there and being interacting with different people. It's really curious, again, to the tappers. I need tappers. I need variety. So basically what the push for me is that I went from reception, totally bored out of my mind, with a boss who then called me into her office and said, either you're going to be you're going to resign, or I'm going to fire you, or you're going to move into sales and I'm going to teach you how to go into sales. And I was like, I need the job, take me into sales. So went into sales, and she was like, okay. And she took me to Bedford Center, to the Woolworths there, and got me a whole range of clothes which were so not me. Oh my God, so not who I was. She even made me put a little brush bristle into my nose to take the nose ring out. I didn't have dreadlocks at the time because I kind of only got those later on in like the 2000s with the white trash days. But I basically felt myself being shape-shifted from this woman into being a clone of her. And it just did not fit. And I couldn't handle walking into places and saying, you have to buy from me, and knowing that the factory that I was actually promoting was shit. It was chara. So basically then I left that job and I went into another job where I felt like, okay, this is more advertising. And it was about a magazine that was coming out in a house in Rosebank. I worked for a guy. It was one guy, one little lady working with me. So we were a very small company. But on the third day of working for him, he called me into the office and he was like, listen, I can see you got a lot of sexuality. And I can see your father hasn't really pushed you to express it. Yeah. So I think it's fine if I can help you. I can show you your sexuality, and having affairs in the workplace is fine as long as you don't tell anyone. And his wife was a silent partner who used to come in the afternoons with her kids after picking them up from school. I was like, what? Hey, 19 years old. Like, what the fuck? Sorry, but I'm telling you now, I was like in my stresses. I went home. My parents could see straight away that this was not working. I even went for like a shower. I felt like weird after that conversation. And then, shit, I got to work with this. So my dad was aware of it. My mom was aware of it. I lasted there 2 months because he finally figured out that I'm not going to give it up. And he made certain advances to me that were just like, oh, you don't do that. And he was older than me. But I was like in his 50s. I was 19. And he then put me into disciplinary hearing. He tried to fire me. So we went into arbitration. I had to sit there and I had to speak in front of his wife and tell her what had happened and how many times he called me to the office and to swirl around for him. Like, what are we doing here? I'm trying to do advertising, please. So, so I found myself bouncing out of that and going into courier company logistics where I was scheduling deliveries. Then I moved from there into a film recruitment agency, which was a lot nicer. The accountant was by the day an accountant, by night an astrologist. So she used to do my charts for me while we were waiting for people like film crew to come and pick up gaffers and lighting people to come and pick up their equipment they had hired from us. And then I decided, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, because I landed up meeting the owners of Reality, and they had the White Trash brand. And I started dating the guy from Reality, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to do this white trash. And I had a stall in Bremer Lake Flea Market. I used to have the stall there from a Tuesday to a Sunday. And so I sold T-shirts from there, and that's how I bounced off into entrepreneurship. It was like, I'm free, I can work for myself. It's tough, but I've got the kracht. I could do it. Rather than listen to somebody tell me how to dress, somebody try and take sexual advances at me, somebody else tell me I'm not doing my job properly. That is just the limit. Yeah. So, yeah, it's an interesting story.
And it's actually, Yeah, and it's so telling that it's like, you had a case of workplace sexual harassment that propelled you to kind of independentize yourself from this idea of working for an employer, and thrust you into the idea that I can do this. I can work for myself. I got this.
And my dad was a mensch because he came into this whole process when I was given these letters. He called in his crew of lawyers and he was just like, help her out because this is ridiculous. Somebody can't get away with this. And because we were in a house in Rosebank, I was even had to stay late for meetings with international people that were coming, and nobody came. It was just me and him. And I'd say to my mother, please phone me so that I can say I've got to pick up somebody from the airport. I was 19. So, I was forced into entrepreneurship because I realized at this point I have too much energy that people can't handle and they're going to try box it. And I don't want to be boxed. And that's it.
And you never were.
No. And then I got dreadlocks. I ran white trash streetwear. Our slogan was, we don't fuck around. I got break dancers and tattoo people and graffiti artists and b-boys and beatboxers and lovely. Break dancers were the best for me. It was such a great environment to be around. It was lovely. But then I had the fire in my factory, and I know why, because I had 3 retail outlets. I was running from 6 a.m. till 10 at night, and then sleeping, and then back and doing it. And I was importing the shirts, and I was printing the shirts, and I was doing it all, one-man band. And it was great, but the universe obviously thought, Janine needs some yoga. She needs to meet Vanessa. Because you are my rock, I must say. You do bring me right down to the planet that I need to be on when I'm flying really, really high.
Oh, thanks, Janini. I'm so happy to be your rock. Because then every so often the gust of wind is so hard that even though you're attached to the rock also gets to clear the ground a little bit and be a little bit in the air. Quite nice.
We're flying.
We're flying. I'm flying a little closer to the ground, but it's all good.
Yeah. But also what I wanted to come back to is just onto your story about choosing to go into yoga, because yoga came into your life how?
It was actually through my mom.
Because you're talking about psychology studies to yoga.
Yeah. So when I was a teenager, I was lucky in the sense that I had a clear idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't so clear on how I wanted to do it. I kind of always felt very called to a path of service, to work with people. I always knew that I wanted to help people feel better in themselves and with the world. And so I studied psychology just because, it was expected that I should study, and I've always been fairly introspective, and I kind of knew instinctively that it would be something that would interest me, and it did, and I learned a lot. But then on when I was still living in Miami, the way the school year works over on that side is the school year is from September to June, and then you have, or to May, end of May, and then you have June, July, August. You have 3 months off during the summer, and then the school starts again in September. So I was back in SA for the 3-month summer holiday, and my mom had been going to yoga classes to accompany and give support to a friend of hers who was going through a rough time. And she found this absolutely divine teacher, this lovely little Scottish woman named Lynn Ferry.
Nice.
And so I went and started doing yoga with Lynn Ferry in her house. And she was just magic. It was like a real transmission. It's like she took the light in her heart and the passion that she had for yoga, and she put the little flame in my heart. And I knew in my second class, I remember this so distinctly. I was in my second class. I think I was in Uttanasana. I was in a standing forward bend, and the thought came to me, I'm going to teach this.
Nice.
And so I just pursued it. I did a teacher training. I did a couple of teacher trainings actually, and then I just started teaching.
You also said to me something about the feeling you had in your body and not really always being part of the school activities and feeling like there was something you said to me about it, which I found so profound because you had such an awareness at that space in your life.
I was never the most physically gifted child. I was always more mentally and cerebrally aligned. Let's put it that way. So I never did sports because my hand-eye coordination was terrible. And so I was not the most comfortable in my body and the most present in my body. And so when I did yoga, it was I found this thing that I could do, and I could do it in such a step-by-step incremental way that I didn't feel defeated and I didn't feel inferior. And I was actually quite good at it. And, because I've got quite a strong mind, for me, the sitting, the meditating, the breathing, all these things came relatively easily. I won't say it was easy, but relatively easily for me, for someone who was so young, when I started. And it kind of it gave me a way to come back to my body, to my embodiment, to my physicality that I really, really valued. And I knew immediately, there was this moment where I really had a light bulb where it was psychology and talking to a therapist and all of that is fine. But yoga really works. And it works without you necessarily having to, dredge up your past or cry about what your parents did or any of that stuff. It's a path of transformation, and it really did that for me. It did transform me.
And it brings
union.
Does
transform me.
It brings union for your body, your mind, and your soul. It really does have that amazing space because, yes, talk therapy is great and it can be releasing, but you literally are repeating traumas and things that you've gone through, which there are other ways, I think, like you say, yoga. You go into the yoga and you can feel how the trauma has sat in your body. You can feel the spaces and places that need attention, And then also coincidentally, then you started doing the massage at the same time, right?
The massage was a little bit later. So I started teaching in 2002, very green, very inexperienced teacher. And then in 2000, I'm not sure if it was 2005 or 2006, is when I did a massage course and started including that.
It was just before we met. You said it. It was just before we met. And I met you then in the June or July of 2006. Might have been July, August of 2006. And my fire in my factory had just happened. That was also a life-changing event because I was in Cape Town at the time. And I was visiting my stores in Long Street and in Canal Walk. And I was scheduled to fly back on the Sunday morning at 9 a.m. And at 3 a.m. or 2:30 a.m., I got this ghastly call from my boyfriend at the time and people that were working for me to tell me that the factory is on fire. My God. I just fell to the floor. I had so much panic and anxiety because I couldn't get there until 9 o'clock in the morning. And then I still had to fly 2 hours in the air and then get there and then drive to it. And to be very honest with you, I turned to yoga because I felt like everything had kind of crumbled. Everything that I'd worked for 6 years, sacrificed the health of my body, my mind, my soul, my time, my social time, and it could all just get burnt up into flames in one breath.
In one breath. Yeah.
And it drove me to come into the space to find the healing. And yoga was definitely that. I'll never forget walking into your studio in Winter Avenue in the back of your house. And it was just like, I've arrived home.
Yeah.
Really.
and we hit it off right away. And you were one of my most consistent and diligent students. You were there 4 times a week with your happy face and your willing attitude, and you brought every single one of your family members to come and try over the years.
I'm such an advocate. When I like something, I gather my troops. I'm like, come on, you're going to try this. You're going to try this. But I also was going through a breakup at the same time. So that's hence why I was at you so much. It wasn't just the fire, because what had happened was I had to switch gears and I had to move all of the stuff that could be salvaged over, because I had orders. I wasn't only doing stuff for White Trash. I was doing orders for other people. Jack's Paint, DJ Fresh, Hip Hop Pansula. I had orders. So we moved everything over to a temporary spot, which was near where I live. And we started to set up again. It was huge stress, huge burnouts. I was also doing a tattoo convention at West Bank Raceway that I had also been in Cape Town, going to all the tattoo stores saying, buy a stall, come and showcase your work. We had human suspension there as well. These guys that do piercing, it was crazy. Classic cars. It was a huge year. And then basically my boyfriend at the time told me, listen, it's not you, it's me. I'm moving to Cape Town. And then I found out subsequently later on that he had actually met someone else in that time. I was relieved, to be very honest, because it was quite a tumultuous relationship towards the end. But we became business partners more than actual in a relationship. And then I spent time on my own. It was you, the series of Friends, all 10 seasons, my job, and the yoga. That all really just took me out of that hole. You know, I was burnt out and exhausted. And, you know, that's probably tying into what you wanted to do. You were called to be open, grounded, and like a gatekeeper to help people to come into the space of healing through yoga, and then obviously the massage later on. And I was actually drawn to it at that time, because that was then moving me over to come to collaborate with you. And you moved out from Winter Avenue and then you went to Sunrise. No, did you go to Sunrise Centre straight away in Edenvale?
No, I taught for a little bit from a space that friends of mine had in their house in De Wetshof. They're by Chinatown, near Cyrildene.
Did and I then come from there? I did. I came there. I came there a couple of times. It was in a back space. Yes, I remember. I came there a couple of times. It was by Observatory, Bez Valley vibes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, and then I opened up the studio in the Sunrise Centre.
Yes, I remember that. And then I went into doing WTA marketing, so I just shortened White Trash, and my print shop was called The Asylum. So it became White Trash Asylum, WTA marketing, and I was doing work for everybody else again and nothing for White Trash. I decided to close it all down and sell it all up. And then I remember coming into your space and saying, come on, let's get some gear going on here. Let's get some, oh man, cushions. Do you remember we made those cushions? Meditation cushions, bags,
and the prints of the chakras. You remember that long, narrow fabric that had the chakras printed on it, with the dial at the top that you can hang.
Yeah, the scroll.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's for that mine actually. I brought it.
Oh, good, nice. I got it. I use it in my chakra yoga classes now. Just wrap it out. Here's the chakras, everybody. Look at their order. But I think, what was the timeline in what you were doing? Because then I started doing the brand Chakralicious as well as work for other people. Do you remember? And then I was providing us with all these shirts, and we got quite creative, if you can remember that, hey?
Yeah.
We had done like digital prints onto shirts. Yeah. I remember that.
I remember that time.
Yeah. And then from there, you kind of decided, no, it's not working for you anymore, and you decided you're going to go start doing some more yoga training at yoga classes at different studios. I followed you there. And then, when did you leave?
Yeah. I left in 2018. But then again, I have to kind of just give a little bit of background and just say that, preface and say that, you know, my parents had always been had been trying to convince us kids for a long time to relocate. They were living in Canada at the time, and I did actually try to get into Canada. I applied to a university in the city that they were in at the time, which was Calgary. And I got in. I was going to do a communications degree. And then I had to put together like an application for the visa, for the student visa. And my application was rejected.
Oh my gosh.
So like as a family, we kind of did a rethink, and my parents decided to leave Canada and come to Spain. Because,
do you know why they rejected it? Just asking that question, V, just interjecting there.
Oh, absolutely. Because, a country like Canada, for you to go there, they want to hear that you're going to go there, that you're going to, pay money to the university and participate and get your education and then go back to your country of origin. They don't really want to hear that you're using your university education as a stepping stone to becoming a resident there.
Okay.
Although so many people do that, that is not what they want to hear in the application. And because, quite frankly, I didn't have any assets and my parents were going to sponsor me. So, of course, they hear, this person, making this application, doesn't have any money saved, doesn't really have, a formal working life. Of course she's going to stay in Canada. So they rejected me.
Yeah.
That was why. I'm pretty sure. I mean, and they didn't say as much, but I gathered,
Yeah.
So that forced kind of like a rethink of the destination. And so I've always been a dual passport holder. I have a South African passport because I am a naturalized South African, but I always had and maintained the Spanish passport.
Okay.
So that's when we decided as a family to reunite in the region in Galicia, in the region of Spain where my father's from. And we came here. My parents came probably a year earlier, and I came here in 2018.
Okay. Yeah, because I think where you left Sunrise Centre was what year? Can you remember?
I left Sunrise Centre in 2015.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I think I can agree with that.
14 or 15, something like that.
Could have been 13.
Because I had also had.
Could have been 13.
Could have been 13.
Yeah, 2013.
Could have been 13 because what happened is that in 2012 is when my relationship with Ryan ended.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And then I maintained the studio for a while after that. It was probably the end of 2013. I probably maintained the studio for quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then I decided to close the studio, and I was renting spaces in several different places. Also because it didn't make sense to keep a space while I was planning to leave,
Yeah.
So I became a traveling yoga teacher again, and I, had regular massage clients that were a lovely couple named Barry and Brenda who kept me going through many years.
Amazing.
They were just such loyal and such lovely, lovely patrons. Oh, I'm very grateful to them because they really they did me a solid for quite a few years. And then, so like 2013, closed the studio. Then I was sort of waffling around teaching classes in like a dance studio in someone's home, and then in like a wellness center in Bedfordview, and another esoteric center in Bedfordview.
And that's when we did we did two retreats together. We did a day retreat in Bryanston. I'm not sure of the year of that because we also did a Ayurvedic retreat where we kind of went into the
weekend
space
retreat.
of weekend retreat. So that I think was also like 2015, the Ayurvedic retreat in the weekend, and then the day retreat could have been 2014 where we did part of the morning was the chakra dance, and then we broke for lunch, and then we did the chakra yoga. And then we did the following year. Because then it's also in 2014, remember, we did the chakra dance journey where we went through the 9 weeks with everyone, and it was such a social time afterwards.
Yes.
Every freaking Tuesday or something. It was so amazing. I'm still in touch with a lot of people from there. It was lovely. I used to get so excited for the after party, you know. Nothing like getting a bunch of girls together to chat, you know. So yeah, and that's also because I went into doing a lot of color therapy, and you remember I kind of always swung again from one side to the other. It was either marketing, or it would go to the esoteric side with like chakra dance and color and sound therapies, or crystal jewelry.
Yeah, and I remember that you were always so like torn, because you were so like, it must be one or the other. It took you a number of years to figure out that it's like, no, it's an and also. It's not an either or, it's an and also.
I know, because that's when I came here in 2016. I came to the Netherlands, and I obviously had been here in 2009. 2009, I just dipped my toe. I got a sniff of the fact that I have this heritage, and I wanted to come and see it. And my brother and I just decided off the bat, we're going to do it. So we did it. We did it for like 14 days. We came back to South Africa, and we tried to get our passports, which we finally did through heritage from my grandfather being born in Den Haag. So we got our passports, and in 2016, I decided I'm coming here for the summer. I've booked myself 5 weeks. I deserve it. I'm taking a break. I don't know what I want to be, marketing or esoteric massaging or chakra dance. I just didn't know. And I came here. And that's when I started speaking South African to a lot of the Dutch people, and they're all like, what's this Yussus word you keep saying? And that's pretty much where Yussus came from. But then I decided in 2016, I think it's better opportunity here as an entrepreneur, because you have space to grow and there's disposable income, and it's not as many challenges as in South Africa. So I sort of started tippy-toeing, but still missing the winters in both places, back and forth between South Africa and here. And eventually in 2020 landed my roots here to be more stable and grow it from here rather than in South Africa. But so for you, it was coming in 2018 to Spain to reunite with your parents and to see what you could offer in massage, yoga, all the beautiful, delicious experiences of healing that you have in your pocket. So yeah, that's amazing. But how did you find it when you arrived? Let's go to that. Let's move into that now that we've done a bit of history. How was your landing?
Well, unlike you, I didn't dip my toe in. I went in completely blind. I had been to Spain before, but I'd only been to Madrid and to the south. So I had visited Malaga and Cordoba and Sevilla and those places.
Yeah.
And so I came here not knowing anything. And it was rough. I'm not going to lie. And not solely from the point of view, it was rough. It was rough personally because, you know, after so many years not living with your parents, to then be thrust into, like a communal living situation, it was
yes,
it was pretty heavy. It was pretty heavy. Yeah, no, it was heavy. And then, the culture shock of the people, and of course I came here not knowing how to speak Spanish.
Yeah.
I have since learned.
Yeah.
So now I'm good. Now I'm
what was
100.
it, every Tuesday, every Thursday? Every Tuesday, every Thursday?
Every Tuesday and Thursday. I was doing 4 hours of Spanish with a wonderful teacher who has since become a friend. And even though we're not doing classes, we keep in touch and we're in each other's lives. And I have a lot of love for Rosanna. She also did me a solid.
Yeah.
And I want to give us lots of respect and lots of gratitude. So yeah, it was rough.
Because if you don't speak Spanish, you kind of get stuck in Spain, especially the part where you're at in the north. Because here in Holland, people speak English, so you can kind of get away with it. And for you, it wasn't the same.
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't the same. And, I guess we both know what European administrative processes are like. And, it's all very dense and it's very procedural. And, you got to learn your way around these things. And I'm still learning. Plenty of things that I haven't had to hurdle as yet. But it's been, I can definitely say that in the 5 years, in October, it'll be 6 years that I've been here. I have
Amazing,
developed
hey?
a very
Time flies,
deep,
hey? Time flies. I can't believe it. 6 years.
I've developed a very deep and like strong love of the land. It is very beautiful here. It's like I've had an opportunity to kind of feel into a sense of having roots, at least of one half of my makeup. You know, I've never been to Cuba, and who knows? Maybe life one day will take me there.
Yeah,
but
I feel like that about Lebanon.
I don't know if that's going to be in the future. I can't say that it's something that I feel very motivated to do, partly because I have so much family that had to, that lived in Cuba under the communist regime and had very hard lives and had to struggle a great deal to leave, So I don't know if I can just like go there on a holiday and like have it, and you'd be like, oh, it's so quaint and it's also
a little bit closer to home for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there's a very strong sense of injustice there. It's like something smells rotten here, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So, but Galicia, and Spain, I think one thing I can say, Janine, is that you can't put a price on feeling on your personal safety. And one thing that I think was unfortunately a major deciding factor for me in leaving South Africa was the crime.
Yeah.
And the uncertainty that comes with just going about your daily life.
Yeah.
And I was witnessing a lot, and you've got stories. Everybody I knew had stories. Fortunately, I was relatively untouched. I had never really had anything too traumatic happen to me, but it was around me all the time, and I was living under this, always being on high alert.
Even
with
your
a nervous
friends
system
in
always very.
Oi River. I remember that as well.
Yeah,
a lot of stories, a lot of them.
They had a home invasion in their farm, and he was left semi-paralyzed, and
it's deep.
It's deep, and it kills me because on the one hand, it's almost like I had to leave South Africa and come to a place. Europe, I've come to realize, has such an old. They don't call it the old world for nothing. It has such an old, long established history.
Yeah.
And a lot of systems of control and hierarchy and containment that have been imposed over many centuries. And it's difficult for me to explain, but it's so apparent to me. It's so apparent to me. It's like, that's why the bureaucracy is so pedantic in the European countries,
Yeah.
But it's also why things function better. The systems work because everybody has known what their place is for a really long time, and people do what they need to do.
And people follow the rules. And they're rules.
Exactly. To a greater... Yeah, and there are rules and there are consequences when you break those rules.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So I look back on South Africa and I realize, like, one thing that I miss a great deal is the freedom to create your own set of rules.
Yes, exactly.
Which is ironic because it's like that same freedom then also leads to a great deal of other uncertainties and instabilities and all those things.
Yeah. But also, like, in comparison to where you are now and where you can walk around and take your dogs out and you're an animal lover and you've got the freedom to roam without the feeling of unsafety. Whereas you remember when you were going around Modderfontein with your doggies and feeling that feeling of like, what's going to happen next?
And How many times, because I was a religious dog walker, at one time I had 4 dogs under my care, and I would take them out for a little walk in the park every single day.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I was not like a lot of other South Africans. A lot of South Africans have a garden and they leave their dogs in the garden and they think that's enough, and that's fine. But I walked my dogs. And can I tell you how many times some random I saw some random masturbating while looking at me.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Jeez,
yeah, my friend.
Freaky. That's freaky. Yeses.
So that's just one example.
Yeah.
It's like you can't do that here. Can't do that here.
No,
because you will get arrested.
Exactly.
Someone will report you and you will get arrested.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen here. It doesn't. So I can't even. It took me 2 years after coming here, Janine. Literally 2 years to discharge my nervous system from that hypervigilance.
Yeah. I agree. I hear. I had 2 guns to my head in attempted hijackings, and when I came here and a balloon popped, I flew to the floor as if it was re-happening. And it's also taken me a while to realize balloons pop here, no guns go off. Well, let's hope not. But it's generally a rule that it won't happen because there's not really that much access to it, And people follow the rules, and people don't go out of their brackets. But also people are looked after in a way, more so here than they are. But it's also, again, looking at the 2, even Spain and the Netherlands are smaller countries compared to what South Africa is. And I think this is it. It's just mismanagement of such an amount of people. And yes, you can still get it right, but I think people are also just very much stuck in their old suppressed mentalities and greed.
I think South Africa is still a place where you can do well for yourself. I think it's a bit like the Wild West. If you've got a great idea and you've got some capital to back you and some investors and you know the right people, you can still make a really good go of it. But it's a bit like I think what's also happening in Brazil. It's like the split between the haves and the have-nots is so great that it's like you're literally living in the Wild West, And I was a part of kind of white middle class demographic and a privileged, let's say, demographic. But I was also just a yoga teacher and a massage therapist. It's not like I was some big wheeler dealer who was making big deals and making loads of money. I was living from month to month for the majority of my career.
I know what you're saying. It's
because
it's a very common thread for a lot of people in our brackets.
I loved what I did, and I felt very blessed to be able to do what I did. But it's not like I was balling. It's not like I was making coin and living the high life. Any place is wonderful when you've got money.
Exactly.
If you can buy your safety, if you can buy your medical care, then it's you can live in South Africa and it's fine. But if you're having to go, I'm going to get myself a hospital plan instead of full medical because otherwise I won't have enough money to eat or put petrol in my car.
That's what I did. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but that's what I did. Hospital plan. I'll pay for the dental. I'll pay for everything else, but hospital plan, that's what I can afford.
Yeah.
And here now in the Netherlands, I have a full plan and it's dental as well, and it's still cheaper than the hospital plan in South Africa. So I kind of feel like at some point it's kind of a win there. But just going back to your point there about the South African stories, it's really, for me, become a point of, even if you're an entrepreneur as a yoga teacher and a massage therapist. I'm an entrepreneur doing these Yussus podcasts. I've also got the chakra dance, chakra yoga, color massages, all of that vibe, oils and stuff. But I know when I'm here, I have a lot more chance to grow the business aspect of it because of the disposable income here, because of the fact that people don't have to, in this country, spend their monthly wage on security, alarm systems. I still have a place in South Africa. I still pay all of these things on it because of the fact that I have people that live in and out of it. So at the end of the day, it's like, no wonder entrepreneurs at some point cannot. And what we're offering is some form of healing to people who are actually burning out to try and make it and to try and afford everything. Kids schooling at one of the schools that I'm helping Granny with her children with, 40,000 for the year, 40,000 rands.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how the hell will she ever afford 40,000 rands? So I'm helping her, but I'm not even affording it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's also the fact though that I do agree with you. I miss the freedom of flow there. There is a freedom and a flow, but it also comes with the challenges.
Oh, South Africans have flow, yo. They have flow. And I think it's an African thing. Hey, Africans have flow. You know, it's like whenever I cross paths with someone here, it's usually like a Senegalese or something like that. You know, they came over in a boat and they, you know, came into Spain illegally. But these people have flow.
Yeah.
People have flow. Yeah. You know, I find that, you know, the Europeans can be a little bit uptight and a little bit, you know,
rigid.
Their perspective on what the world is and what the world is like.
I miss that face. I miss that face at the petrol station that pops up next to your window. Hello, does everything for you. He's such a charm. He does his thing. And at the end, when you give him the money for the petrol and you give him his tip, it's like sharp, sharp. And that smile, that Colgate smile, it's just like, it's a looseness. It's a, I'm open, life's lekker, everything's cool. Let's go.
You know, and you can have a joke and a little interchange with a random person in a street in South Africa that you don't really get here until you know people.
Yeah.
You know,
there is a bit of a holdback in the European culture. Yeah. And I mean, you know, it's all relative. I mean, here in Spain, the northerners are considered colder than the southerners, you know. Yeah. And then you compare like the Dutch or the Germans when they come here, and you can definitely see that, you know, they're cut from a different cloth. You know, it's all relative, you know. Yeah, but it's not what I mean as well is just to make clarity here. It's not a bad thing. It's just what I'm doing with you today is we're simply observing what's going on, because I must be honest with you, as much as there are these differences, I enjoy these differences at times. You know, it's not like I miss sometimes that sharp with a smile and a bit of a gold tooth that sticks out because it's been framed around a tooth, you know, like that gold tooth sparkle, ding, almost like an advert, you know.
I miss that, and I miss Rosina, who, you know, she came to me once a week and she cleaned the house once a week. She was my domestic worker, but she became a friend, you know, and she became like a family, like the family you choose,
mister.
You know. A sister from another mister, exactly. And you know, I miss that. I miss the warmth and the ease of. And you know, she lived in Tembisa, and you know, she came from a very different situation, and you know, her experience of life was so different from mine, and yet, you know, we connected and we had common ground, and we cared about each other, and we looked after each other.
Yeah.
So
I feel the same way about my domestic worker granny, the same vibe. Sister from another mister. She's like a couple years younger than me. Yeah. She's been through with me through the thick and thin of shit. She met me in 2008. I help her kids. I literally am her family. She's my family. And I'll be honest with you, at the end of the day, I have so many more connections like this. And I think that's, for me, where as you're talking and saying this about the warmth, it's like, what I see it as is that when we speak to the foreigners that are obviously natives and locals in the towns and countries we're living in, there isn't that understanding. When I look at you and you look at me, we have no words, but we understand. Same with me and Granny, you and Rosina. We've been in the same pot, and we kind of know the struggles and the strengths and the ups and the downs of being a South African, you know, and living in these daily conditions, and all living with this worry of like, who's on my back, almost like we're the animals, the prey, the impala in the Kruger National Park, you know, and we're waiting for the lions, and it's like living under that pretense of adrenaline and quick spurts of here and there, but it's, you understand each other, when you're just looking at each other. And I think that's what I miss. I miss that look of acknowledgement in the eyes of others, which is fine because it's also nice to forget about that sometimes and just be about like, oh, these are new people. They have new perspectives. They see life differently. I kind of have to filter the information that I talk about at parties and stuff around Dutch people because they're quite, I don't even realize it anymore, V, but they're quite harsh stories. You know, you're talking about what happened to your friends in Mooi River and my brother and his wife and how they had their story and how you hear so many others. And you know, it's like we come out of it and go, well, thank God they're alive. Thank God they're alive. You know, that's the takeaway. But then when you tell it to someone else, I can see as I'm saying the words, they're like bouncing off their heads like, what are you telling me?
Yeah, they don't get it. They don't get it. And I mean, look, also what happened to my brother, to Miguel, you know, that wouldn't have happened in another country.
No.
That wouldn't have happened in another country.
I think that was also another deciding factor for you to leave once he passed, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the death of my brother in 2014?
Was it 14 or 15?
I think so. 2014 or 15. Oof, I don't know. Anyway, it became a very definitive event, and it obviously rocked our family. And so that was part, obviously, of what made the imperative to get the family together also quite strong. And yeah, I just, you know, and also getting older, you know, I think when you're young and you're frisk and, you know, you got all your five senses like tuned out and you're very much about that the output when you're in your youth.
Yeah.
You know, I was already, you know, I was in my late 30s and I was kind of feeling myself not really having the energy to have the same intensity of vigilance and output that I had maintained for the past however many years. And I wanted a more peaceful story for myself. And I also want to say that, you know, if you pan out and you take a bird's eye view, I don't by any means think that South Africa is doomed at all. But I do understand that things move in their cycles and growth happens in the time that it happens. And I knew that it wasn't going to happen in a way that I would have liked to have had available for me to enjoy my old age as well. Because I'm also thinking about that now, you know. We're 44, but, you know, it's like we're in the midpoint.
You're so Virgo.
So now we're thinking about this.
I love it.
You know, but, you know, now you're thinking about the next half of your life. If, you know, inshallah, if I get a next half of my life, what I'd like it to look like. And I don't want it to be struggle, and I don't want it to be fearfully looking over my shoulder, and I don't want it to be living month to month. I want it to be peaceful and calmer and with maybe a bit more of a safety net, you know, with a state that, you know, can kind of, you know, give you a bit of a hand if you need it, you know.
Yeah.
Not that I intend to, you know, take advantage of state subsidies or anything, but you know, it's like it's so evident here in the way people roll and the way people live and work. You know, here people take time off work when they're sick. Do you know that how many times I worked sick because I had to? Because if I didn't work, I didn't make money, and if I didn't make money, I didn't eat.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it's nice to be in a place where that's and everybody, a lot of people in South Africa are living on the same breadline, you know, and a lot worse than I was. I was blessed, you know. Yeah. There's plenty of people living in far harsher conditions than I was.
Yeah.
But I wanted something different for my future, Janini. You know, I wanted something different. And I do, you know, just coming back to my points, like I have hope for South Africa, but I don't know that kind of change would have been facilitated by the time I needed it to be ready. You know, it's like I need to think about my life and how to make my life better.
Yeah,
you know?
I hear you. I have the same feeling and sentiment. You know, I actually cemented when I said to you that I moved here more concrete in 2020 was really because my father passed away in August of 2020, and it really rocked our family and it rocked our worlds. And we were just like bombed at the idea. And I was always going back to South Africa and flitting and floating between these two places, Netherlands and South Africa, because my family were in South Africa. And then I had also extended family here, but also friends, and starting a new space and place. But, you know, when my father passed, it just became evident to me that also it's not a place and a space for, you know, my family at this point to cement into, because of the fact that my mom is now on her own. And to live in her house on her own in South Africa versus the Netherlands, which is her actual heritage. Her father was born here in Den Haag. So to come here and to have her have this opportunity to be able to make it as in a retirement age, just like what you're talking about, is why that decision was made. But I made the decision to come here because I knew that once my father had passed, this was the way. I was coming back a whole many years later. My granddad left here when he was 18, 19, after Second World War, to go and make a new life in South Africa. And now I'm just bringing that torch back to the Netherlands. I can't do it for Lebanon, but I've also not really had the direct heritage. My dad's dad. So it's quite far removed, came in the Ottoman era when the Turks were invading Lebanon, and he came to South Africa and he fled there. So it's like one more generation removed. And even though we've lived very much with a Dutch and Lebanese upbringing in both of the sides of it, you know, we've definitely had a lot of the traditions and a lot of the foods and a lot of the culture instilled in us from young. It just felt like this is the place. And then for my sister as well, then she would move as well because she's got young kids. And for her to have young kids have an opportunity here, way better than what she could in South Africa. So it helps because we have the Dutch heritage, we have the passports. And when people have spoken to me here on this side, a lot of them are on visas and work visas and student visas and things like that. So it just made sense, you know, to do it because there's like this golden ticket to give it a try. I think it's difficult either way, whether you've got the passport or you don't. It's a very difficult. They even compare moving countries to be equivalent to grief and death. And I think it's just a whole new way of understanding and approaching things in life. And a lot of times, I'll give you an example. When you go to birthdays here in the Netherlands, you congratulate everybody in the family. So it's your birthday, V. I come to your house. I congratulate you for your birthday. I congratulate your mom. I congratulate your dad. I congratulate your brother. I congratulate everybody that's in the party that's come there because that's the way they do it here. And so many parties I've gone and just been like, congratulations to the one that's birthday it is, and that's it. And I feel like, some people might see that as rude. Some people are realizing, she doesn't know. And then I kind of get told about it. And then I still feel like when I go to these parties, but how can I congratulate everyone? It's not their birthday. It's this guy's birthday or this girl's birthday. Like, come on. You know, because I've just never been brought up with that, you know. It's just crazy. And my brother and his wife are traveling around the world because South Africa became a no-go for them as well, considering what they went through, you know. So it's interesting to see just in my own family how things changed. And it was also after the COVID pandemic because things became tougher in South Africa. You know, it's weird because when I was watching the differences between the countries, because I was this side, I could see also that I've possibly made a better decision for the lifestyle I have. And I don't say this for everybody. I still miss South Africa. I still wish that at some point I could merge the two. You know, somehow just make this magical land, but I can't. And at this point, I think both of us are also very much on the thing of having hope for South Africa, not dissing it. I don't diss anything about it. In fact, I sometimes miss the challenges, if you don't get me wrong, because there's no excuse anymore to say, sorry, it's load shedding. I can't send you the email. You know what I mean? There's so many ins and outs in that town. So
I must say that's definitely one of the things I do
like. And everybody's so on time in Europe.
Yeah, well, not so much in Spain, but
yeah, but you guys have your siesta at 3:00 in your towns, hey?
Well, not so much in the north, hey. That's more of a southern thing, purely because it gets so hot that you can't bear to be outside. So here the weather is much more temperate. and it doesn't get so hot. But that, it's got that same schedule where all the shops close at 2, and they'll open again at 4, 5, depending on the shop owner. And that's just how it works. Everything closes down for the midday break for lunch and, to have some downtime.
Yeah.
And then people go back to work.
And so now let me find out from you saying that. What is it that you're currently doing? So you're offering classes. So you live in Minho, is it?
In Minho, yeah. I'm living in Minho, which is about 20 kilometers outside of A Coruña, which is the main city in the region of Coruña. And I am teaching yoga classes, 5 yoga classes a week from a wellness
in Spanish,
because that was my aim. All I wanted to do was be able to deliver a class in Spanish, and I can. And every day I get a little better and improve. So yeah, there's 5 classes a week. 5 classes a week there from a wellness center called Ivana that belongs to a what has become a dear friend of mine, a Gallega, but she grew up in Switzerland. So she's had a different kind of mindset, So she's very hardworking. She's very diligent. She's very efficient. She's also like a work hard, play hard kind of girl. She really is, So I'm very grateful for her, and through her, she's been starting like a school, like a college for people to get training in various healing modalities. So I'm studying osteopathy, like basic structural osteopathy, and I've also been doing craniosacral. And I'm going to slowly go adding, as in the years to come, I'm going to go adding to those skills. But I've been teaching yoga classes from there, and also this year I started teaching 2 classes a week from a neighbors association that's just up the road from me. I took over from another yoga teacher who opened her own studio, and the group was already very well established, and it has just been an absolute pleasure to work with people literally in my community, these people, like 2 of them live just across the valley from me, So it's been really wonderful. And I've also been doing massages, so I'm essentially doing the same thing. Purely because I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah, and you're definitely not going to go back to teaching kids, hey? That's what you did when you got there.
No, I taught English at an academy, a private academy for 6 months to little kids, and I was like, it shell shocked me, and it did not end well. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. But let's also just give you applause for getting your driver's license in that country and doing it in Spanish, and just being such
I had to get my driver's license.
Yeah, it's like starting all over.
I was driving illegally for so long, and everybody, whenever I told them, they were so shocked that I was doing something illegal. And I was like, see, this is why I know that I was raised in South Africa, because to me it's like, whatever, I'll just fucking drive with no license.
It's in progress. It's in progress. Give me a chance.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I just have a language to learn. Calm down, everyone. But I did it, finally. I think it took me when did I get it? Last year or the year before?
The year before last. I can't even remember, my love. I got it in
22.
I remember it was a big bane.
I got it in September of 22. Yeah, it was the biggest thorn in my side. But now I'm completely legal. I have an ID card, which also they ask you for your ID number absolutely everywhere to do absolutely everything.
I know.
So I'm like a local. And then I open my mouth, and of course, I don't have a local accent, so people can pick up right away. They're like, "Where are you from?" And then they try and say, "Are you French? Are you Italian?" I was like, "Oh, I wish." No, this is the story.
You French and Italian, and I get always asked, "Are you Australian?" And I think, God, if you heard the Australians' accents, I definitely am not. I can't see how I sound that. Don't even look it. No. G'day, mate.
That's how the Australians say no.
G'day, mate.
They go, no.
No.
Yeah, g'day, mate.
G'day, mate.
Yeah, no, they launch their vowels weird.
Yeah, listen, I must be honest with you. It's definitely, somebody was telling me the other day that apparently it's ranked that South African English is one of the most unattractive languages amongst like American English, UK English, Australian English. And I was just like, that's a matter of opinion. And everybody, like has an arsehole, has an opinion. So whatever. I think our accent is characteristic.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't mistake it. Alex, my brother, he's been working for a company that recoups tax for various clients. And so he speaks to providers like hotels and restaurants and whatnot. And of course, you know, because he speaks English, he's been dealing with clients with providers in England and in Holland and whatnot. And every so often, he speaks to a South African. And it's like, it is so obvious when we open our mouths, we just know each other. Because the one guy was so funny. He was saying, Alex was trying to confirm the name and he wasn't sure if it was Hall or Wall, something Wall, and he wasn't sure what he was hearing. And the guy was like, no, it's W-A-L-L, Wall, Swiss muur. And they hadn't even talked about it even. They're like, going, nothing personal before that point. And Alex just packed out laughing. And he tells me these stories every now and then. And then and once they're done with the business, he'll be like, you know what I'm going to ask you next? And the person will be like, I lived in Northcliffe.
Yeah, exactly. I find that as well in Jason Emilio's shop when people come in there. It's like, you know what, you just hear it. You can hear it straight away when they walk in. I also hear a lot of people walking past my place and I'm just sitting working, but I can hear out the window. And honestly, in the past 2 months, I've heard more and more South Africans. It's a platter, more straightforward, more genuine way of talking to me. And maybe it's because I'm South African that I say that, but it just feels like it fits. When I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that's one of us. That's one of us.
We know each other.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, there's obviously quite a big South African diaspora. Yeah, it's a big South African diaspora. Obviously a lot of people have felt like we have and have chosen to call upon ancestral visas or just branch out, and look for a different experience. I'm not saying it's a better experience. I'm just saying different experiences. We all have to. And look, I know, I still have people that I care about who are in South Africa who are, living their lives there because they don't have the means to realize the kind of shift that we've made, thanks to our genes or our parents or, what have you, or our work that takes us somewhere else. It's the diaspora is definitely getting bigger, I think, because of those challenges.
Yeah.
But we'll recognize each other on the street from that accent.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite South African expression? What's your favorite slang?
Oh, I've been noticing, but I think this is also something subliminal. I've been noticing more and more and more that I say yasses all the time. Yasses, yasses. It's almost like instead of saying fuck, I'm saying yasses. So it's in all aspirations. The other word is lekker. Lekker for everything. It's like lekker. I love the way the word sounds, like lekker. It really, for me, gives my feeling of lekker. Or yasses. Or yasses. Or yasses. All these ways that I say it, it's just still this like, those are my top 3. I also say cuck a lot. That's cuck.
Well, I think cuck is probably my number 1.
I hear that a lot from you.
All you have to say is like, it was so cuck.
Yeah.
And you just know that it was like really, really bad.
Exactly. Though it's just, but it's also such a word. All of these words, you can use them for an expression of surprise, of objection, of explanations of, like exclamation of something like yes or lekker. It's just, I don't know, feel good words.
Like when something, like for example, someone does something amazing, or like you see something really cool and you're like, yes,
Yeah. Exactly that. It's just, you can get into the word. It's got some room to get in there, you know. I also love the word shap. Shap. I often say it, shap, shap. Like, I don't even do the double barrel shap, shap. I just like shap. Like, shap, I've got it. Or fuck it. I love the word fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck it, man.
Fuck.
Stop doing this, Janine. Fuck it.
Fuck. And I just love like the odd Afrikaans expression as well, like, we must maar mos fok voort.
Yeah. That's it. Actually, that's it. Kyk nooit fok voort. There's another one that I just came across the other day. Somebody told, I think my mom showed me a meme or something. I can't remember where it came from, but it was like, you know, that saying, it's not my monkey, it's not my circus. But in Afrikaans, you would say, dit's nie my hol nie, nie my drol nie.
Nie my drol. Ja, net so. And what I have said to the animals as well, here, not too long ago, if they're acting up, I'll be like, hey, look, shaya wena.
Wena, yes, shaya wena. Nice one, yes, that's awesome, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I say yeah a lot for a lot of things. I also say eina because I'm very clumsy, so I'm constantly bashing and poking into things, and it's like eina. You know, or bliksem.
Yeah, I can't say that bliksem is really one that I've used a lot, but definitely, yeah. I think Yussus, kak number one. It's just kak.
Oh, there's another phrase, yeah, and another phrase. I'm telling you. Or, you know, it's like, I'm telling you, it was so amazing.
Yeah, no, well, fun.
Yeah, well, no, fun. What the fuck is it?
Yeah, no, well, fun.
Yeah, and I also use a lot of the times when I'm talking to people, how's it? Like, how's it has become also my hello. And with a lot of things, I'm always like, how's it? How's it? How's it?
Hey, how's it? How's it going?
Yeah, how's it? How you
What's
doing?
How you doing?
And what about is it?
And is it? And also now.
Oh yes.
I'm going to speak to him now.
Yes, this has caused many fights in my life.
Now could be. Now could be in 5 minutes. It could be in 5 hours.
Absolutely, but if you're South African, you know that now is I'll get to it when I get to it, and it'll be now, just now. Give it a minute.
Yeah.
Give it a sec.
Yeah.
That's also, give me a sec.
Yeah.
Give me a sec. Okay, one, go. I'm not ready. I said, give me a sec. Means just wait. I'm coming. So colorful, actually. It's such a colorful way of speaking. But what I love is that from moving here, and being on the side, I've gained such a colorful perspective of what South Africans represent and what they truly are in all shapes, forms, colors, genders, roles. It's, to me, being still in South Africa, I wouldn't have appreciated the character, the real humor, the humor that we have. Yeah,
like humor in the face of adversity, I think is one of the biggest great qualities that South Africans have. South Africans they are funny, and they don't take themselves too seriously, which is also kind of nice.
Yeah,
and I also feel like South Africans are incredibly resourceful people. It's like they will make a plan.
Yeah.
You know, they will make a plan. You know,
a boer maak
a plan, and if something is not going, you make a fucking plan. And I respect the hell out of that, because I've seen enough people here who seem to drown in a glass of water.
Yeah.
That I've realized, you know, that's, I can see how that kind of thing can be lost in a society that is very comfortable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but I also want to extend out these podcasts to start actually talking to more South Africans living there as well, because I kind of really want to try and get that crossover, because I think it's really important. It serves both sides to hear each other's stories, because I think there's perceptions and assumptions. And once you actually hear how people are living in South Africa, it gives you a little bit of sense of home still, but it also gives you that empathy. Hey, listen, I'm on this side. Let me do stuff that can promote my country. You know, let me do stuff that shows that I'm like truly proudly South African. And vice versa, like, you know, people in South Africa listening to these stories of foreigners, I mean, people moving to foreign places, it gives you perspective that you're in South Africa and, hey, it's not just a jaw walking out there. There's a lot of integration, and sometimes there's also a lot of loneliness. I notice a lot of people lonely that are South African, that are on this side, and they're trying to make it work, but they still miss the home comforts. They miss the home people, the vibe, their tribe, you know. And I really find that at the end of the day, for me, this is like one of the driving forces for doing this, telling each other stories. It's really, really important for me to open the space up for people to do this, because I'm feeling in my own life how wonderful it is to share stories. Just what we chatted about now makes me feel lighter, full of color, full of understanding that, you know what, we've come a long way, we're doing well, and we can face most things. I've got this saying, like, you don't scare me, I come from South Africa, you know. Nothing scares me, I come from South Africa.
Exactly. I say something similar to the people here. I'm like, you don't know, if I have to, you haven't seen me in action. I've had training.
Yeah, every day I'm shuffling.
Yeah, every day I'm shuffling. I was shuffling hard.
Yeah, exactly. And it's still, you know, you come to these places, and even though there's social and all of that, I don't want to fall back on that. I want to do my shuffle. I know my hustle. I want to do it, but I want to do it in a place that actually works, so that what I'm doing brings a lot of success and achievement and goodness to a lot of people. You know, that is the main aim here, is just to really start embracing, because even the podcasts that I'm offering to people to come and share, I've had 1 or 2 people already say, like, thank you for allowing me the space. It's been really good to be able to share my stuff. I felt alone, and I'm feeling now that I have a community again, because I'm here on this side alone. I don't have my family here, but just knowing that there's this podcast going on, and there's South Africans that are going to tell their stories, and then there's the Lacquer store. I know it's a little bit trickier in Spain where you live, because there's not many South African expats there, right?
Oh, I met one couple at a festival here at a town close to us, and I scared the girl off because I was so eager to make a South African friend.
Stalker.
I scared her off.
Run! Yeah.
She ran for the hills. She's like this crazy chick. She's fucking messaging me. So, yeah, I've met one South African.
Yeah. Yeah,
or two, a couple, actually. There were a couple.
Yeah, but I think if you were living more in like Barcelona or Madrid or Malaga, you would, because Tyron was telling me there's a lot of South Africans living down south of Spain. So there's communities going on there. In fact,
the south. Yeah, the south is a different kettle of fish, because there's also so many English there, and there is a lot of English that is spoken there. You know? They've moved in quite a bit there, so it's like a different world, for sure. It's
interesting, hey, just in the two diversities, like just from top to the north to the south. But it's always like that, hey, in all places. It's people that grew up in the south opposed to people that grew up in the north. We were the Eastranders. We were the Eastrands.
Yeah.
In Bedford View, Primrose Hill. Fisher's Hill.
Yeah, Bedford View, Primrose Hill. Representing in the house.
Did you ever go to Fisher's Hill Lookout Corner?
Of course.
It was so amazing, but then they had to stop that.
I made out there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I wonder how many South Africans made out in Fisher's Hill. If you are a South African and lived near Fisher's Hill and made out on it, please comment on this. Please. Love to know. But I also think it's funny, because then eventually Fisher's Hill became closed and banned because people were getting hijacked. So it's just like, oh, come on, South Africa. Let people have a make-out hill. Come on. They got parents.
Yeah, we grew up in different times, my friend.
I know.
We grew up in different times.
I remember at the age of like 13, 14, taking a taxi from my house with my 2 buddies who were very short, much shorter than me, to masquerades in town with knucklebusters. 13, 14. Yeah. Never known what that was. My friend was like, don't worry, it's okay. I brought you something. I was like, what? She's like, put this on your hand. I'm like, God. my dad and mom could see me now. Please, God, sign of the cross, help me get back home safe. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just love the adventure. Let's go. Woohoo!
Yeah, but my question is, those are different times.
Yeah.
So considering all that we've chatted about and all that we've kind of laid out here, do you think you'd ever want to go back to South Africa?
Oh, it's such a double-edged sword for me because I still have projects in South Africa and I still have a property in South Africa. So for me, it's a little bit like I still go back there once to twice a year for a couple of weeks at a time. So to go back and live there, if you ask me now at the age that I am at 44, I don't want to go back and live there for now. I don't have anything there that I could hit the ground and run with. It's been too long. I've been here for 4 years. I also feel like there's been a lot of tragedy and I've experienced people dying there, and it's just like I don't know if I want to be in a space and place there. I'm enjoying the Netherlands. I am enjoying the way that the water surrounds this place, and yes, it rains here a lot and I do complain about it every day, but the fact of the matter is I do feel very connected to nature here as well as in a city vibe, and I enjoy the pedestrians that I see every day and hear their chatter and their talk. I live in a city in Utrecht that's very multicultural and so many different foreigners. So it's hearing Spanish, hearing Greek, hearing Portuguese, hearing Italian, hearing South African. It's just so wonderful. It's just, for me at this point, I don't want to go back getting into a car and drive everywhere to shopping malls or to parks that are surrounded by fences, because you can't just sit there without a beggar coming to ask you something. I don't want to go in a car anymore where I have to watch. I love the trains. I love the buses. I love my feet. I love my bicycle. So, no, I don't think for now that I want to return to South Africa, but I don't ever want to turn my back on it. And I still want to keep what I have there for now. And I have a lot of people I support there. So for now, my investment's in people, and to make sure that they get the education they need, and to make sure that they got food on their table, and to make sure that, they have a lifestyle as I'm actually having a good lifestyle. So, yeah, I'm not going to. And you? What do you think? What do you feel? Because it's quite tricky for you. You don't really go back there.
Yeah, I think for me, it's been different because this has been an opportunity to reconnect with a part of myself. I don't have any family there. None. I have a little bit of family here. I feel like if I'm going to spend time moving around and exploring places, I want to do it within Europe, start closer. Europe has a lot to offer. It's got so many different countries in such a relatively small space. Countries and cultures and languages, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe one day in the future I might go back and visit some beloveds, but I don't see myself going back to live there again.
I think it's quite tricky and difficult, once you've stepped out and you've left the country and you've started, and I'm not talking about visiting on holiday, I'm talking about like putting the grind in. For me, it's about 4 years now solid here, and talking about 7 years, 8 years, first 4 years in and out, and then the last 4 years more secure. But you, 2018, so we're also looking at a good 6 years, you're saying that you've been there. So now to go back to South Africa and to try and live again in that way, unless you've got something really set up, it's going to be a slog and a struggle. And even though it's been a slog and a struggle to get into the systems here and to make something of yourself here, as an entrepreneur I'm talking about, because I don't, and please God, will never have to work for anyone again in my life. I know that is not my journey. But that means that I've got to be clever and smart, that wherever I go, I've got to have an opportunity. And I haven't left roots there. I've got a few roots there with a few people through the vibrational you. I do the oils and I do numerology readings and I do bracelets and things like that for a healing center in Woodlands for my friend Chantal, also a very good, amazing healing woman. We do a lot of sharing of information. We're going to even do some podcasts, which I'd love to invite you to as well, where we speak a little bit on the esoteric side. So again, not the either or, it's an and also. that I'd like to also start opening that realm up for us, where we can have some conversations about the yoga and the osteopathy and the massage and the healing benefits and the mental faculties and a little bit of psychology and things like that. But definitely would
I'd love that.
continue yeah, it would be great, hey. But definitely continue staying in Europe, because I also find that Europe for me has given me the opportunity to travel a little bit more to the world. You know, that's the other thing, that being in South Africa can be quite taxing if you want to travel. It's so expensive to come from the south of Africa
so far
all
away
the way.
From everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas in Europe, you're in New York within 6 hours. You also on the other side of the world. Tokyo, I think, is 12 hours. You can get down to Dubai or the Middle East. You've got Europe to travel around. You've got England around the corner, Ireland. So it's kind of like, you know, it's central, even though it's northern.
It's a lot.
It's central, you know. The weather can be shit here at times, to be very honest. I miss South Africa's weather. Absolutely. South Africa, you have the best weather in the world. Honestly, it's something that has crept up underneath me living here I'd never noticed it when I was traveling between countries. But now that I've done a winter and a couple of winters in this place, I can tell you. It's not even about the cold. It's just about the sunshine. There's nothing like an African sun.
The light. It's the light. It's completely the light. Because I don't mind the fact that it is cold so much, but it gets grey and rainy in this part of Spain as well.
Yeah.
And there's not enough light.
Yeah.
And so I've become like a local. Like now, beautiful days. We had a beautiful day today, Janine, and we're going to have a beautiful day tomorrow. We're going to go to the beach. I'm going to the beach with Eva.
Nice.
So you have to really take advantage of the good weather when it comes. But this place, I have to say, in the summer when the sun shines, this place is amazing.
It's like two different countries, isn't it? Eh? In the summer and the winter, it's like two different places. It really shocks me. But it's also the extremities of the day and the night here. So we're actually hitting 10:15 now, and it's light still, and the sun hasn't gone down, and it's such an adjustment.
Yeah.
But then in winter at 4 o'clock, the sun's gone and it's dark and it's like, okay, nighttime. And I'm like, what? So it's to actually just live between those extremes, you know. And I think also what's nice about it is we've become appreciative of the sun. I think when you think about it, when you go to Joburg, Dopia Zero, right? Corner of Van Buren Road, there's umbrellas outside. How many people are sitting outside? Without an umbrella, and how many people are sitting inside? It's always packed inside. It's always people under the umbrellas. Nobody wants to be in the sun. Everybody wants to be in the shade. Granted, the sun is hot. It's fucking hot there. It's fucking hectic hot. But you look here, and people that live here, when the sun shines, they generally take a day off work. They take a day off work. They're like, cheers, the sun's shining. Yeah. They're all looking for the sunspot on the terrace.
It's kind of sweet, though. It's kind of sweet. I kind of like it.
But there's another difference between the places. So it's also just different perspectives, you know. Really different perspectives. It's actually really cool. But it's been really great chatting with you, Vivi. And I think we'll keep carrying on with a couple of updates going forward, you know. And hopefully maybe we'll do like a once-a-year annual checkup and see how things have progressed and any new stories. I'm hoping we can collaborate, maybe come out to Spain, do a couple of things on the esoteric side of things, massage, yoga, chakra dance, maybe also doing some Yussus
you're
podcasts.
Always welcome.
I know. Maybe some surfing. I'm really keen to try some surfing.
Well, you got to come on over in the summer.
Come and knock on my door. We'll be waiting for you. Three's company too. Mr. Roper. But thank you for your time, and thank you for all your love and for your stories and for your history and your words. You have beautiful words. I love your words. You speak so.
Oh, thank you, my darling. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story. My story.
Never-ending story.
Yeah.
La, la, la.
The never-ending story.
Do you remember the white dog?
Of course.
Loved him.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
You're talking about the dragon.
Yeah.
The black dragon. Oh my God, he was the best.
It's beautiful.
The best.
The best.
Yeah.
the best.
We're
the
dating
shizness.
ourselves here, my friend.
But we will keep in touch, and we'll also get on to doing some other podcasts as well. And please keep your eyes and ears out. Maybe a good idea to maybe just nudge your brother a little bit and see if he's keen to do a 30 to 45-minute pod with me and just tell me about his story, his adventures, his landing.
I'll run it past him.
No pressure, though. Maybe the dude shy, who knows. But I think he'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think he's got some good stories to share and good experiences of how he landed there.
Yeah, probably. I'll ask him, see what he says.
And tomorrow here in the Netherlands is the Pride Parade. Do you remember you came here in 2019 for the Pride Parade? Remember. So that's a good memory. And tomorrow they celebrate the Pride Parade. So I'll be watching it from my apartment window as they go around the canal in hundreds and hundreds of boats, all dressed up, full of color. It's my day, Rainbow Day. I love it. So I'm going to go blow up some balloons. Nice. I put my flag outside now, so I've got some representation.
Nice. Awesome. I love it.
You walk into the land of the rainbow when you walk into my life.
I know, but everybody's going to look at your rainbow and they're going to make assumptions about it, and they're not going to realize that you're the chakra-obsessed lady.
I love that. I'll keep them thinking, but I'll tell you something. I will represent the rainbow till I die.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so beautiful. You go, girl.
Thanks.
You represent that rainbow.
Thanks, Chichi. Cookie, 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 cookie. For anybody that doesn't know, that's mine and Vanessa's language of making coffee in the morning.
It came from a little birdie that I saw on TikTok that would go cookie, 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 and they would make a big, like his odor would make a big, thing about it and record it, and then I turned it into coffee, 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 coffee. And I was that excited about my cup of morning coffee.
And for weeks and weeks and weeks, that song has played in the background in my morning coffee ritual while I'm making it. It's totally there. It's still every now and again. It's starting to fade, but it's still there. Coffee, 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 coffee.
Well, that's why you need to come over this summer.
I know.
And we will reestablish it.
I'm definitely looking to get a sneaky trip out to Spain. And like I say, if I can find a good price, because you know how they hike the prices, I might do it sort of closer to the end of summer when the kids and the varsities are all back at school in September maybe, and still the weather's okay.
In September.
Yeah, maybe come and meet you on your birthday.
That's actually not bad because... Ooh. That'd be nice. Ooh.
Do a little bit of a rendezvous around Spain too, book another trip in somehow to go from where you are maybe down, because I want to take my mom to see as well to her friend Olga, who's also living, but she lives in Marbella. So
where's Olga?
She's in Marbella, so it's down, I think Marbella.
Okay.
Marbella or Malaga? Okay. I'm sure it's Marbella. But maybe we could do a week with you. I do a week with you, and then we get my mom to meet me and you in Marbella, do a travel down south.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Let's do it. I'm game.
I'm game. Do you remember game? The drink.
Of course I remember game.
Game. And the good old Milo. Milo. Oh, I love Milo. Yes, I could drink Milo every day, all day. It was my favorite as a kid.
And Horlicks.
Oh, Horlicks.
Horlicks was my favorite.
I actually have some. I might go make a cup now.
Nice. Enjoy it.
All right, my friend. I love you lots, and we will catch up soon. And you take care of yourself in beautiful España. Gracias.
Thank you so much, and I love you too. And thank you for the opportunity. And till we speak again, my friend.
Until we speak again. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Bo.
Hi.
John Cena. Sure. We could literally speak for hours. Our record length of chatting on the phone was one night. We spoke for 5 hours straight. But it always feels good to speak to a fellow South African Chi-Chi, who is also paddling her boat in the unknown waters of adventure and discovery in a new country. And as you heard, it can be tricky navigating your way into another culture and lifestyle. And although we left South Africa to connect with our ancestral roots, it's clear that we Chi-Chis will always rock the South African gees wherever we go. It's in our blood. So let's keep this rolling and spread the word of our South African culture to every part of the world, allowing our colourful rainbow nation to bring the Ubuntu of our people to all who cross their path. These podcasts are important in staying connected, and those who have already shared their stories can feel the inner joy of expressing their South African uniqueness. I encourage everyone, whether you want to be part of the podcasts or not, to take a step back and reflect on your own journey so far, and to embrace the chutzpah of being South African. For we are a nation of freedom and unity at the core of our DNA. We hold hope and optimism daily for a better life, and that is gold. Remember, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and loved more than you know. Yussus, South Africa's wildest, alive with possibilities.